First of all, when we're looking at growing brands, we want to be able to bring value to a customer that's already there. For example, when we go to acquire a brand, we want to make sure that we can bring more value to the existing owners. So that's important to look at. Can we do that through our system? And then we currently already have scale, so we don't need to grow through acquisition to get the scale. We have brands through the upscale, upper mid-scale, mid-scale economy, and now through acquisition, WoodSpring. And we're able to deliver a better value or experience through the extended stay WoodSpring product than they could. Organically, one of the great things we have done recently is we've created Clarion Point, which is a bold select service brand conversion extension of the well-established Clarion brand. And what we're able to do is create a platform that our owners were looking for the conversion opportunity to offer a premium but affordable select service experience.
I think that really depends on what type of lodging real estate cycle we're in. To grow organically can be very difficult because what you're always trying to do is to get to critical mass just as fast as you can. And when we're in an uptick or in a strong lodging development cycle, that's much easier to do than if we're on the back side of the curve. If we're in a down cycle, it's super difficult to get off the ground growing up organically with a new brand. That's why you'll tend to see acquisitions happen in slow times, back end of a development cycle, or really in rather difficult economic times.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I think you could be successful with both models. If you look at what Marriott's done recently with the acquisition of Starwood, they've decided to have their growth centered around acquisition, and if anybody can do that and do it well, that's certainly Marriott. I think they've done a nice job in the past few years of taking the Starwood portfolio, blending it into their portfolio, identifying clear swimming lanes to make sure that there's some differentiation between the various brands, I believe now approaching 30. So I think that's been very successful for them, and going forward, some of the brands that Starwood didn't seem to have a good handle on, such as Sheraton, I think Marriott's going to figure that out and really grow that brand. So once again, they're built to do that well, and that's been a successful model for them. Conversely, if you look at brands like Hilton's taken more of an organic approach, where they're growing their portfolio not only through the diversification of their existing brands geographically and looking for additional real estate to put those power brands into, but also looking at identifying white space, creating new brands within their vertical distribution within their portfolio and plugging those in to make sure that they're taking care of the consumer from cradle to grave, so that they have a vertical line of distribution, whether you're a college graduate or an 18-year-old looking for a place to stay, all the way up to somebody that's a boomer and looking for some type of resort type experience. So I think both models can be highly successful, and I think those two brands have done an exemplary job of showing that they can do those well.
Yeah, it's a question that I really like, and it's very personal to me. Basically, I think some of the main factors involved are what kind of financing you can get, particularly if it's an acquisition or a new brand. And sort of the institutional markets typically like to see data based on cap rates and resale to see how those performance numbers look. But fundamentally, there's ways to do it in both methods. You can acquire a brand, such as Hyatt Place when they bought AmeriSuites in the early 2000s, so then they had the instant credibility, or when Marriott bought Delta, they had instant volume. However, though, the challenge with that is you can inherit brands or flags that have inconsistent product. Whereas starting something organically from scratch has this other set of challenges where you have to build something from the ground up, and so getting that volume and the numbers can be a struggle. Certain brands have had huge media and marketing ploys to get their name out there, but then as the years go by, they just can't get the volume and the numbers to actually get the sustainability for them. So you really have to have a good strategy. Brands certainly have to be willing to make a lot of key money commitments, and they have to double down on them if they really believe them. But I think it's also important on the branding side to have a strategy of consistency so that they don't oversupply certain markets and that they don't populate their brand. And then that creates a different issue when you then have a conversion brand instead of having a new build brand.
I think acquisitions and growing organically are both important, as well as renovating and continuing to transform existing brands. We have a very clear-eyed approach when we look at all of these different ways to grow. We look at making sure that we take care of our key constituents. We want to make sure that there's a consumer need for the product, that we have a platform that can create profitability for our franchisees. We want to be able to grow it and grow it fast, and we want to make sure that we can create shareholder value. And we've worked on all three of those recently. We acquired WoodSpring just over a year ago, and it fit all of those elements and further cemented our position in the extended stay space. We birthed organically Clarion Point, and we're on a transformation process with the Comfort brand, just nearing a $2.5 billion renovation of that brand. So I think as a family of brands at Choice, we're conscious of being in all of those spaces, but with those filters that I discussed.